Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 513 Sports Attack.
I'm Nick, and with me, as always, my partner in crime, all the way out in Arizona this week. Corey, how's it going, man?
It's 87 degrees and sunny out here, man. It's beautiful. Just paradise.
Nice, laying by the pool.
Yeah, it's kind of been the thing to do to this week as it's been the 80s. We also took in some Cincinnati Reds spring training games while I'm out here, too.
Nice. All right, well, let's just dive right into this week. We got coming at you, we got the AEW Revolution pay-per-view that happened. We got the SuperShowdown pay-per-view from WWE, Elimination Chamber preview. We're going to run down the NBA MVP race. We're going to get you into some conference tournaments covering the Big Ten AAC and the ACC. So let's just dive into it, Corey.
Yeah, so a couple of things that we missed. Obviously, the one being that we want to talk about is the AEW pay-per-view. Nick, I know you kind of watched this one a little closer, so I'm going to let you kind of run us through what kind of happened, what were your thoughts, and what kind of happened, what went down.
Oh man, the pay-per-view overall was phenomenal. You had a good pre-show match with the Dark Order, defeated SCU, SoCal Uncensored. That was a great match. The Jack Hager defeated Dustin Rhodes by submission. That was a phenomenal match. Then you had the Darby Allin Sammy Guevara match, the Spanish God, as Le Champion likes to call him. Darby Allin won that, which was a great 5-minute match. It was just high-flying, action-packed. And then you had MJF defeated Cody Rhodes. Always pulled out that nice AEW diamond ring he won. Hit Cody in the head with it. That was actually a great match as well.
I was gonna say that was one of the ones that I thought was gonna be one of the better matches.
Oh, dude, that was a great match. Pac defeated Orange Cassidy, if you can believe that, by submission. It was crazy to see Orange Cassidy in an actual match. But that was such a great pay-per-view, or such a great match as well. Then the main event, you had Jon Moxley versus Chris Jericho for the champion, which Moxley finally got his coveted world championship in a company with AEW's. He's the second AEW
It was
world
obviously,
champion.
Not being able to watch. Yeah, not being able to kind of catch the match, seeing glimpses of it. It's hard. I heard really good things about it. It was really good. I heard it was a really match. Obviously I was sad to see Chris Jericho drop the title and see Le Champion be not the champion anymore. But obviously to see Jon Moxley do it coming from WWE to AEW, to see it all come to that, I'm kind of happy for him. And, obviously, I know he said just a couple of days ago he was not afraid and he's not hiding behind the title, and he will challenge anyone who wants a shot. So, obviously it's going to be fun to see what the future holds for him at champ.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and to be honest, Moxley, he's one heck of a talent. Just to have, he's great on commentary, he's great on the mic, he's great in ring, can really tell the story of the feud throughout the match, which Chris Jericho is one of the best to ever do it. To a lot of people, he's the GOAT of wrestling. But those two guys, they put on one heck of a match. But Corey, let me tell you something. The match of the night was the Kenny Omega and Adam Page versus the Young Bucks match. That was it was just poetry. They literally told the story of their feud that they've been going on for the past month or so. They really told that throughout this entire match. It was high flying. There was not a lot of rest. It was action. It was back and forth the entire time. No team really held a strong point in the match where they just completely dominated. It was well fought. Man, I got to tell you that, to be honest, I know it's January or March, but let me tell you something. That was the match of the year so far. And it probably will be match of the year because it was just that good.
Yeah, I mean, I really do. I've always liked Kenny Omega. I always liked the Young Bucks as well. So I'm glad to hear that that was a really good match. And from what it sounds like and from the way you've been talking about it, it does seem like, AEW is putting out that other brand that is competing with the WWE, and it sounds like their pay-per-views are, real pay-per-views and actually worth the money to invest to watch.
Oh yeah, I mean, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega got 30 minutes. That they won. That was a 30-minute match. One thing I'd like what this company is actually doing, just as in general, is you really don't know if it's fixed or fixed, like determined who's going to win, if you will, before the match, and it's kind of great because you go into it thinking like, oh, who's going to win. Not like a WWE product where you can basically almost predict who's going to win the match, as soon as it's announced. So what AEW is doing right now is flipping phenomenal. This pay-per-view was honestly one of the best pay-per-views I've seen in years, and that's including some WrestleManias and other WWE pay-per-views as well, Corey.
Yeah, well, that's really good to hear. Obviously, so let's go from an AEW pay-per-view to one that you and I both don't think was as good as it really could have been, was the WWE SuperShowdown. What did you like? What did you like about that pay-per-view? I know, just from what happened in the outcomes of those of the matches, that there were title changes, and I think that kind of shocked both you and I.
Oh, definitely, yeah. The one that shocked me the most was honestly The Miz and John Morrison defeating the New Day to be crowned the new SmackDown Tag Team champions. That was actually a good match. Well deserved by The Miz and John Morrison, Eminem back together, which is nice to see for nostalgia purposes. One match that I was definitely not impressed with, and I don't like these guys working together at all, was the Garza Carrillo match. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, Corey, but it was just they just seemed too scripted, if you will. I don't know. It's just very painful to watch sometimes. And then we had the Seth Rollins, Buddy Murphy defeated the Street Profits, which then the Street Profits beat them on Monday Night Raw for the Tag Team Championship. So I'm not sure why you wouldn't have them. I'm not sure why you wouldn't have Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy drop the titles and at the pay-per-view. That doesn't make sense to me. Going into it, you knew Mansoor was going to defeat Dolph Ziggler. That was a great match.
You knew Brock was going to be. You knew Brock was going to come in and just smoke Ricochet, and he did just that.
Exactly. Roman Reigns defeated Baron Corbin in the steel cage match.
Hopefully for the final time.
And you know what? And that's honestly why I skimmed through that match. I mean, there were some high points, and I just skimmed through it just because I'm done seeing these guys in the ring together. It's time to get us some fresh things.
Yeah, and then I think. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, man.
I was gonna say, and then obviously I really liked that they gave obviously another female match as well, and Bayley beat Naomi in the singles match, which I heard good things about for a women's championship match. I heard it was actually a pretty good match. Obviously, Naomi's a pretty talented wrestler herself.
Yeah, I wasn't really impressed with that match. In fact, to be honest, I didn't even watch it. I again skimmed through it. It didn't look real exciting at all. But then the match that I wanted to watch, which I thought, and I knew probably how it was going to go, was the Goldberg versus the Fiend Bray Wyatt match. Let me tell you something. Everybody was upset over this. Like, why would you build the Fiend to be this strong only to be defeated by Goldberg like that? Well, let me tell you something. For all you wrestling fans out there who may have not known Goldberg in WCW, this was his mantra. 3-minute matches, spear, jackhammer, let's get out. He went 173-0 in WCW doing that. That's just his mantra. I had a feeling the Fiend was going to beat Goldberg or lay down for Goldberg here. I felt like he was going to lose the championship just because Vince needs to have a big draw for WrestleMania, and he thought the best thing would be to have Goldberg go in as champ to face Roman Reigns. So that's one of your main events at WrestleMania this year, which, to be honest, in my opinion, I would kind of rather have seen Bray Wyatt do it, but I get why they have Goldberg in there. And the simple fact of this, and when you really think about it, this is why it does make sense, Core, is WrestleMania 30, I believe it was WrestleMania 30 when Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker and ended the streak, right? So then, we had Brock lost the title in other ways that really made him look really strong, where he wasn't pinned to lose it. And then who came in and took the Universal Championship away from Brock Lesnar? Goldberg. And then Goldberg laid down for Brock that year at WrestleMania, but it just makes sense the way they build the way they book their talent and who's strong and who's best to defeat who. So when you really, if you break it down in that aspect, it does make sense why Goldberg did beat the Fiend. I don't know what your thoughts on that matter are.
I was kind of surprised. I really thought they were going to let the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, go all the way to WrestleMania, and then he was at WrestleMania. But I really don't think it's a bad idea, obviously, with Goldberg being a strong obviously a strong wrestler being an issue. I really don't have an issue with it. I think, obviously it's going to draw some more, just a little bit more. Obviously it's easier to promote Goldberg than it is probably the Fiend, as the Fiend obviously can be a little creepy or scary at some point, at some time. So it's probably easier to promote Goldberg. And I do like Goldberg, so I really don't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah.
I was kind of sick of seeing the Fiend all over the place again.
Yeah, and they did give the Fiend a good WrestleMania match with John Cena, so that'll be good to build him back up and put him back into that title picture. But I feel like he deserves a substantial run, maybe give it to him the pay-per-view, or have Roman Reigns face him at SummerSlam and lose it and hold on to it to Survivor Series or Royal Rumble would be cool. Keep him in there, have him, start going around and doing what he's doing with other talent, work him around a little bit, and then SummerSlam, perfect opportunity, big pay-per-view. The Fiend wins it and holds it on for another 6 months to Royal Rumble, which I think would be a good substantial run for him.
Yeah, I think he obviously was built up. He will be built up again, and then I think he will obviously be around. Speaking of someone who came around, we also had The Undertaker, who actually did show up as he replaced Rey Mysterio, as Rey Mysterio was injured by the OC in a pre-match attack. You had The Undertaker, who beat AJ Styles, Andrade, Bobby Lashley, Eric Rowan, and R-Truth to win, is it the Tawike Trophy?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it. I don't want to butcher it. But I did have a problem with that, the way they did that. Personally, I'm not sure why they had the Undertaker win the gauntlet match, when after they took Mysterio out of it, you could have crowned AJ Styles the champion of the gauntlet, right? And he gets the trophy, and then have the Undertaker come out, choke slam him, give him the tombstone, whatever, and then that could set up your WrestleMania match with him. I would have rather seen that happen because The Undertaker doesn't need something like this. I mean, AJ Styles doesn't really need that trophy either, but like The Undertaker, he's only here for special appearances, you know what I mean, where you could actually parade the trophy around if it was on AJ Styles, up until WrestleMania. You know what I mean?
Sure. No, absolutely. No, I definitely understand. Definitely understand that. Obviously the purview. I think this is the ones that you and I both kind of feel we're not as interested as the others. Just because it's kind of overseas during the week, not like a typical pay-per-view. I feel like they book special things for it, but I think overall as a pay-per-view, I think it definitely could have been better and stronger.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we do have another pay-per-view coming up that's actually upcoming on Sunday. We have the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. So I'm going to run through the match card here for us, Core, and then I want to get your, your opinion on who's going to win and lose. Okay. So we'll go match by match. So the first match, or what's listed on the card right now, is a women's Elimination Chamber match. The winner will go on to face Becky Lynch, not face Becky Lynch, but will face the Raw Women's Champion at WrestleMania. So that would be Natalya, Liv Morgan, Shayna Baszler, Asuka, Ruby Riott, and Sarah Logan are in that match. Who do you like in it and why?
So, I mean, I don't think there's any question. I think Shayna Baszler is going to win. Obviously, they've been setting it up for her to face Becky Lynch. I really just think Shayna Baszler is going to win, although I wouldn't mind seeing Ruby Riott win. Obviously, her coming back, she would need a push kind of up. I think it's a little too soon. They've been building up Shayna Baszler for Becky Lynch, but I think this has the potential to be a very solid match if they let it play out, but they could just make Shayna Baszler really strong, and Shayna Baszler would just run right through all of them.
Yeah, I agree. I have Shayna Baszler winning that as well. I think the plan, the rumor mill is Baszler versus Becky Lynch at WrestleMania this year, which I think the storyline they're trying to play is since Shayna Baszler was part of the group that came from MMA with Ronda Rousey, that she is getting Rousey's redemption, and then I feel that then maybe their next move is to convince Ronda Rousey to come back and have her versus Shayna Baszler. But I would love to see Baszler win the women's championship at WrestleMania. I don't know about you, but I would love to see it.
I definitely would as well. I'm kind of over Becky Lynch, but obviously one step at a time. Let's get her to win the Elimination Chamber match and go on to get there.
Yeah, and I think, man, like I am just so over seeing Becky Lynch all over the place. Like it's just ridiculous. I'm sick of the whole gimmick that she has right now. It's just really old. It's been going on for way too long. The next match that we have is Braun Strowman for the in the 3-on-1 handicap match for the Intercontinental Champion. Braun Strowman goes in as champ, and he's going to face Shinsuke Nakamura. Cesaro and Sami Zayn is returning to in-ring action finally. I'm going to take Braun Strowman again. I don't know about you, Core.
Yeah, I think this is one of those matches they're building Braun Strowman to be really strong. I think he's going to win. I think obviously Cesaro, I love Cesaro. I think he's great. Sami Zayn is just an entertainer, but I think Braun Strowman's going to win. I think they're just, again, building him up to face someone very strong.
Yeah, I like it though. I think it could be a potential to be a good match. If it's done right, this has the potential to be a very, very great match. As long as they give them time, it'll be a good match. Then we have an Elimination Chamber match to decide the SmackDown Championship, the champion. So you have The Miz and John Morrison going in as the champs to face off against the New Day, the Usos, Heavy Machinery, Lucha House Party, and Dolph Ziggler and the glorious Robert Roode. Who do you like here, Core?
I really think as much I do love Heavy Machinery. I really do like them. I don't think they're gonna win though. The New Day, I think they've had their run. I think it really comes down to the Miz and Morrison and the Usos. I would really like to see the Usos win. Obviously, you and I have talked about it for a long time that they've never had that moment, that WrestleMania moment, and I'd love to see them obviously get that chance. But in this kind of match, I could very easily see Vince continuing with the Miz and John Morrison.
Yeah. See, but I think they might set up here, I wouldn't be upset about this at all, because both tag teams are phenomenal talents. I would like to see the Usos win this match to guarantee them almost going to WrestleMania to hold the champ, have their WrestleMania moment. But I could see them actually letting the Miz and Morrison hold on to them and then face the Usos at WrestleMania for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. That would be a phenomenal WrestleMania match as well. The next match though we got the Street Profits going in against Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. I hope the Street Profits win this. I'm just sick of Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy.
Well, they built him up. They built up the Street Profits by having him constantly show up on Raw. It didn't really have too much to do with anything. I really hope the Street Profits hold on as well. I could definitely see them holding on and just Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy don't need it. They don't need it. It's drawing more attention. They really don't need it. Obviously the Street Profits, I definitely could see the Street Profits winning with probably help from maybe Kevin Owens again. But, the Street Profits, I think, are going to hold the titles.
Yeah. I think they retain as well. So then we have Aleister Black versus AJ Styles in a no disqualification match. I think Aleister Black's gonna win this by an interference with the Undertaker versus on AJ Styles. I think the Undertaker is gonna interfere here.
Yeah, I totally see. Obviously, with there being no disqualification, I could definitely see the OC having some sort of plan to help out AJ Styles. With that being said, obviously with that being done, obviously you could see the Undertaker, not necessarily to help Aleister Black, but just to kind of, just interfere. So I could definitely see that. So, obviously I'm probably going to take, Aleister Black, obviously with the help of the Undertaker as well.
Yeah, because that is officially not announced yet. Undertaker versus AJ Styles. I know that's what it looked like they were setting up at SuperShowdown, with the Undertaker going out there and doing that to AJ Styles. So I feel like that's going to be another moment where AJ Styles is going to come out on Monday night and cut a promo where he challenges the Undertaker at WrestleMania. And then another match, which I could really care less about, is Andrade versus Humberto Carrillo. To be honest, over both of these guys, Andrade's good in-ring talent, but I think he needs to break away from Zelina Vega a little bit and go out on his own. But to be honest, I hope Humberto Carrillo wins it from him just to change it up,
I do understand. I like Andrade. I do like Andrade. I think obviously with him serving his suspension, I think that might have a little bit to do with it. I think Humberto Carrillo or Carrillo, however you pronounce it, I believe he will win this. Just because of Andrade returning from a suspension. I don't think obviously the WWE wants him to be a title holder.
Yeah, I have that feeling as well. All right, Core. So guys, that wraps up the little wrestling preview there. Got some great pay-per-views. Go back and check them out on YouTube. Check out some of those matches because some of them are really great. If you got the WWE Network, you can always watch SuperShowdown. And then check it out this weekend on Sunday for Elimination Chamber. Another hot topic right now though, Core, is the MVP race here in the NFL or in the NBA. Sorry. It looks like the front runner to win it again is Giannis. But then you have LeBron on his tails. Luka's making his case. Kawhi's always there. But then you always have James Harden in the picture, Who do you like this year for the MVP?
So, as much as it kills me to say this, I think it's obviously it's really down to two people, okay? And obviously you have Giannis in the Bucks, and then you have LeBron in the Lakers. I really don't see it being anyone other than those two guys. I'm really I enjoy Giannis a lot. I really enjoy Giannis a lot, and I think if Giannis could develop a jump shot, he would be the one person you could not stop. But I have to give it up. LeBron is having a monster year. He's having an MVP year at this stage of his career is just pretty unheard of. I'm not a huge LeBron James fan, but I do have to give credit where it is due. And I think at the moment right now, I would give it to LeBron. But that's not to say, obviously, there's still 20 games left in the NBA season. And obviously, the Lakers are going to have to hold on to that number one spot, and LeBron's going to have to continue to perform. Obviously, he's shooting just about 50% from the floor. He's doing everything he can at 35 years old, doing everything for the Lakers, and the Lakers are still making moves. So I think if the Lakers can hold on to that number one spot, I think LeBron would win the MVP again. But with all that being said, Giannis is still having a phenomenal year as well. And I don't want to take anything away from him, as obviously he is a phenomenal player as well.
Yeah, so here's my thing with the MVP. And I know you and I have gone back and forth on this, but to me personally, the MVP core is the guy who means most to his team. Okay, so if you take Luka, and Luka's my pick for MVP, because if you take Luka off the Mavericks, I don't think they're a playoff team. I don't think they have. I think he is one of the main reasons why they are a playoff team. I mean, he's averaging 28.5 a game, 9.5 rebounds a game, 8.8 assists, averages 1 steal a game. He has a phenomenal plus minus, a real plus minus as well. Like he's in one of the top 7 in the league for total plus minus. I mean, and then obviously LeBron and Giannis and James Harden lead it, but to me, like when you look at the MVP, it should be really, if you would take each of these players off their respective teams, are their respective teams still as good as they are without them on it? And if the answer is no, then that guy should really be the MVP. And I'm not talking, do this for every team in the league. Just if you're looking at certain guys, these top guys, the top 5, you got to look at those guys and say, all right, well, if we take James Harden off the Rockets, off their current roster, are they just as good without him? I would say probably. I would say the same thing about the Lakers. Maybe not the Bucks because of what Giannis brings to the table every night, but I definitely could say that about the Mavericks if you would take Luka off their team.
Absolutely. He's a fun young player to watch. I think there obviously is going to be MVPs in his future as well. I just don't. I don't think this is the year for him. I think LeBron for what he's doing at this stage in his career, I think LeBron has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Obviously now with the passing of Kobe, obviously not being around still. Obviously, I think I think it's LeBron's to lose right now, but obviously those three, LeBron, Luka, and Giannis are all on his tail, and I think either of them could really win it. Obviously with 20 games left, depending on what happens in those 20 games.
Oh yeah, definitely. But one interesting thing that caught my eye during this conversation, did you catch James Harden's comment when he basically said that, look how tall Giannis is. Like, it doesn't take that much talent to do that. Look at me. I have to sit here and work for every point I get. Well, my response to you, James Harden, is this. You travel on pretty much every step back three you have. Is that talent?
Don't get me wrong. James Harden is one of those
He's one of the
players
best
who
players
just
in the league.
he's a shot maker, and that's exactly what he
Yeah.
does. But with all that being said, obviously you can the MVP is great. Winning the MVP is great, but at the end of the day, it's the ring that everyone wants, and James Harden has failed to deliver because in the playoffs they all keen in on him, and they're soft. He's a soft player in the playoffs, and I think that hurts him. Obviously, and I
Oh, it
love
does.
James Harden. I think he's a great player, but obviously you
And
cannot the big time players show up in the playoffs.
well, and part of the reason he struggles in the playoffs is because the refs allow you to play a lot more physical game in the playoffs. They allow you to, they're going to give the defensive players some leeway. Instead of calling every tiptoe foul, which James Harden is used to getting during Tuesday night in January in Minnesota. They call a completely different game, and you're exactly right, Core. Big players show up in the playoffs, but you know what those great players do in the playoffs, like LeBron, Giannis, Kawhi Leonard, is they adjust their game to playoff format. You know what I mean? They understand that they're not going to get every single foul. They're going to have to absorb some contact to put the ball in the hoop. And I don't think James Harden adapts well enough from regular season play to playoff time.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. But again, I really think it's really just a crazy stat, because obviously what Giannis is doing is just pretty, unheard of for what his size. It's just unheard of. But I think obviously there's still a lot of games left. 20 games is still a lot, and I think there's still some time to make up ground, and I think it's still kind of a three-person race like we talked about for MVP.
Yeah, I agree. My overall pick is going to be Luka. Who's going to be your overall pick here?
I'm going to stick with LeBron. I think LeBron is going to win the MVP this year.
All right. All right, Core. Well, how about since it's March, let's dive into some of these conference tournaments to kick off March Madness. Let's kick it off with the AAC because that's our hometown Bearcats conference. Who do you like the Bearcats winning the conference tournament to guarantee their ticket to the big dance?
They're going to need, obviously the Bearcats are maybe in a little bit of trouble. They're going to have to win a couple games in the tournament to secure the spot. Obviously, they have the talent to win the tournament. I think Memphis will probably come out on top in that conference championship, but I do think the Bearcats will win a couple games in a row at back-to-back days, and I think they will end up dancing as well.
Okay, so what scares you with why do you say Memphis is going to win the conference?
I think Memphis. I think Memphis has been the best team. Memphis has been the best team in the conference. Yeah, they haven't really played up to their par, and a couple of their players aren't in the injuries, everything. Obviously, with the Wiseman situation, obviously. But I just think Memphis is too tough. inside, the Bearcats struggle to rebound. The Bearcats, tournament time is always a rough time to be a Bearcat fan because the two things the Bearcats can never do well is they can't shoot free throws and they can't close out games. And those are the two things you need to be able to do in March, and you have to have guard play. Now, Jerron Cumberland is a great player. A senior came back. I think a lot of it's going to be on his shoulders, but so he's going to need help. And if he can get the help, UC has a chance to make a run. But obviously I think they're going to be somewhere in that like 10 seed range, Bearcats right now. But I do think Memphis is going to win the AAC conference championship.
All right. So out of the AAC, so Memphis is definitely your favorite. Who's your sleeper pick outside of the Bearcats?
It's not a very strong conference. That's really the problem. Obviously, I think the sleeper pick to make a run, I think is the Bearcats. I think of all of the teams, I think UC is the team to be that sleeper everyone underestimates to make that run. Obviously, it starts with the conference championship, but obviously the thing that scares me most about picking them is the coach. The coach does not have big game experience, and that scares me. Brandon does not have that experience. Yes, his teams made the end tournament, and yes, his teams competed, but there's a difference between competing and winning in the NCAA tournament, and UC has struggled winning games in the NCAA tournament, even with big leads.
Yeah, definitely. One of my sleeper teams, as I'm looking here, I kind of like Houston. They've just been playing really well down the stretch. I know they lost. They're on a one-game losing streak, but they're definitely a solid team. They know how to close games out. So that'd be my sleeper team. But I do like your pick in Memphis as a favorite. Let's move on to the ACC here. Who do you like coming out of the ACC just to win their tournament? Or necessarily, who do you think out of the conference who's maybe on the bubble, who would really need to win the conference tournament to guarantee their ticket?
So I kind of the team I've kind of got my eye on in the ACC that's kind of on that team that I've kind of overlooked a little bit. Obviously, the team I think that you want to watch for is Clemson, because Clemson is 15-14. They're obviously not an NCAA tournament team, but they've beaten the big name teams. They can compete. They've shown that they can compete. And so I think they're a team to watch. The other team, I think that everyone's going to get on me about saying this, but the team I would be most scared to play is North Carolina, just because they have nothing to lose. They have not had a great year, but they've had injuries. Obviously, they're not a team that you want to mess around with, because when a team plays well as a team, obviously you saw what happened when they played Duke. It took a couple miraculous shots to beat them. Obviously, North Carolina is not a team I would want to play either.
All right, who's your favorite to win the conference?
I think it's Duke. I really just think it's Duke. I think Duke is playing very good basketball right now, which is surprising. Coach K always has them playing their best ball going into March. Obviously, Duke scares me in the NCAA tournament, but I think in the ACC tournament, I think they're going to be capturing another championship.
They're my favorite as well going into it. A team that always scares me is Syracuse. They're very well coached and very disciplined. So if you're not able to break down that 2-3 zone that they run, they can definitely cause some havoc if they're making shots. I have to agree with you. A team that I would definitely not want to face is North Carolina. I do agree with you. That aspect of just not having anything to lose is always scary. As they said in the movie The Replacements, you are very dangerous because for you there is no tomorrow. So I think they know, that if they put a good run here and could capture the title, that would be, definitely a high, like marquee moment of the entire season after the season that they've had, especially disappointing after they were ranked like number 7 at one point. yeah, man, I got to go with Duke. I also like, Florida State and Louisville. Obviously, those two teams are just great as well. But I really think it does come down to Duke and probably Louisville for the championship. Because if everything goes well, they would play. They would play each other in the championship round. So I would have to go with either one of those teams are going to win it.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. I definitely Duke is the champ.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go over here to the Big Ten. Cover our neck of the woods here. The Big Ten is just really beating up on each other this year, Core. Unlike years past, where like Michigan State just been dominant in the conference. We've just beaten each other up this year.
It's been one of those conferences that you want to pick, Ohio State early on, so great. Michigan early on, so great. They kind of dropped off and hit 4 or 5 game losing streaks. It did not work out. Everyone's beating up on each other. Obviously, I still like Michigan State. I still like Michigan State to win it. Obviously, I think they've got the most talent. They've got the most experience. But the teams to look out for, I like our Michigan and Ohio State. Both teams have the talent to be there, have the talent to do everything they want to do. And I think either team could really scare some people in March as well. However, I think Michigan State is the team to beat still.
Yeah. Speaking about our Buckeyes and your Wolverines, what's scary, what I think what really matters for them is what happens in the tournament and who they would end up facing in the Big Ten tournament, just because both teams are very streaky at shooting, but they both play great defense. And, so I think sometimes it's more of a matchup thing with our teams. How well do we match up against, the other team like Rutgers, the Iowas, the Illinois, and the Marylands. But both teams have proven that they can hang in those games and win those games. So, those are just two scary teams. But I do think their path does determine on, how the cookie crumbles, if you will. How all that plays out come tournament time. And then in March, come later on in the month when the tournament actually starts, I think it just matters on these teams on where they're put and, which quadrant they're put in. Because if they get into the right quadrant where they don't have to go through like a Duke, a Louisville, a Kansas type team, or Baylor, or, I think that they both can make strong runs as long as they're in the right quadrant. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And the thing is the Big Ten does perform really well. Obviously, you have teams like Iowa and Purdue and Indiana. You have all these teams that could really be solid NCAA tournament teams. But I think it really comes down to Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State. Those are the teams that you really look at to probably win the conference championship.
Yeah, like I can't count Maryland out either. They're playing really well basketball, even though they're on a 2-game losing streak. One of those was a road loss to Ohio State, I believe it was a road loss, I believe that was a road loss for Maryland. But Maryland's just playing phenomenal basketball right now. So is Wisconsin. They're riding a 7-game win streak right now. The only thing that does scare me about a lot of these teams is I've been looking at their like home versus away record. Everybody but Michigan State is either at 500 or below 500. Away from their home stadium. So, that's something to really take into account as well. And when you look at that, with Michigan State being the only team, you got to assume that they're going to be the favorite to win it, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. I think you have to pick them.
Definitely. Core, before we move over to shout-outs here, I just wanted to go ahead and get your opinion on this. There was a poll put out that I saw today where it was, if you could choose any head coach outside of your current head coach. So, like for you, Core, if you could pick any head coach out of the Big Ten, outside of Jim Harbaugh, to coach the Wolverines, who would you pick for football?
I think if I had to pick a guy, obviously most people, I think the obvious choice everyone would say is Ryan Day. I'm not sure. I think it's a culture. I think that's what we've kind of talked about, and it's a culture. So my guy I would go to Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald. I think he's the kind of guy who could bring a culture. He brought a culture to Northwestern, and Northwestern competes. Obviously, I think it's that kind of guy that you need. I think if I had to pick someone else in the Big Ten, instead of going to that Ryan Day or even Franklin, I would look to, Pat Fitzgerald just for the culture. Because he can get guys to go. If he can get guys to go to Northwestern, he can get the guys to come to Michigan, and he's done a lot with less talent than you look at what Jim Harbaugh has been able to do with those smaller star guys.
Yeah. So the way I actually voted on it, and listener, our followers here, feel free to give us your opinion as well. But my pick actually, Core, was PJ Fleck out of Minnesota. Rowing the boat. I like, because and here's why I picked him. When I was looking at all the list, he's a nice young guy. He's very motivated. He can build a culture, and he took a Minnesota team who was not even favored to even probably be much above 500 this year, and took them and almost had them playing for the Big Ten championship game. If they beat Wisconsin at the end of the year, they're playing Ohio State in Indianapolis. So the turnaround that he made just in 1 year with the talent that Minnesota has was flipping amazing. I love his offensive mindset. His schemes on offense are like the routes and the passing game is just so pure that it's, how can you, if you have the right guy in the system, like if he was at Ohio State with like a Justin Fields, how could that type of player not flourish in that type of an offense, So outside of Franklin and Harbaugh there, I would honestly have to go with PJ Fleck. Just because he's a younger guy, he can connect with the kids a little bit more than like a Fitzgerald can, for long-term purposes.
Yeah, again, a guy who's going to build that culture, I think, is what we're kind of hitting on, and you want that guy who would build that culture.
Yeah, and understand what it means to be a part of, some of these prestigious programs, even though you don't have the even though you may not be affiliated with them or have that like deep history as Harbaugh being a Michigan guy, or when we had Urban Meyer being from the state of Ohio, or even Ryan Day now understanding, what it means to be an Ohio State Buckeye. Those, I think the Fitzgerald and the PJ Fleck of the Big Ten, those two guys could wrap their minds around it and be able to, recruit to those historic things and that type of a culture that is already existed before they would even get there.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, Cord. So we're going to our shout outs. Do you have anything for our weekend watch though? Anything coming up this weekend outside of Elimination Chamber to look out for?
I mean, you're just obviously your normal college basketball. You want to just continue to watch. All major networks have college basketball on. Every game this weekend is going to be important, obviously, as we're getting close to tournament time. Those on the bubble teams are going to start trying to make their push to make sure that they get into the NCAA tournament. But outside of Elimination Chamber, there's not too much on the dock. Obviously, you do have a couple championship fights in the UFC this weekend as well. If you're into the MMA, obviously outside of the Conor McGregor's and Daniel Cormier, you have the Adesanya, who is the undefeated champion, and he is facing Romero, obviously overwhelming favorite for the champ. And that's at UFC 248, which is in Las Vegas this weekend as well. So that's something to keep an eye out for as well this weekend.
Nice. Just real quick, because it just happened. Or two things here before we move on to shout out. Actually, I want to get your opinion on Core. The first one, let's just start off with your thoughts on Steph Curry's performance last night, being his first game back. Do you think think that Steph should have came back this season, or should he have just stayed, off the court, really rehabilitate because how far out of playoff contention they actually are? They're, mathematically, I think, eliminated already, and looking for a lottery pick. And then what did you think of this performance as well?
I mean, it's hard to put into words. Obviously, the performance was pretty unreal. Obviously, for him to hit some shots that, obviously you expect that him to hit. Obviously, just to hit on night one, it just showed the work that he puts in. I was pretty impressed with the way he played. He did look very tired at times, obviously, and that's just going to have to happen when you get into game shape. Take some time. I do like him playing these 20 games. Obviously, it keeps the fans interested. Obviously, with being on the floor, obviously there was a huge buzz in the stadium and arena last night when he was on the court every shot. So it's important to have him play these 20 games, obviously, because I think you're going to see. Obviously, we talked on earlier shows about maybe Giannis being acquired by the Warriors. Obviously, but if Giannis stay in Milwaukee, I think Andrew Wiggins could be that solid number 3 in future. And I think you have to kind of get him used to playing. And obviously, just in the last week, obviously, with him being able to practice and everything like that, Andrew Wiggins is already saying that Steph Curry is a great teammate. He wants to pass the ball. Obviously, Steph Curry had the behind-the-back pass. He's been working on his passing. And I think, obviously, next year they're going to be a team to watch out for.
Oh, definitely. So you're saying that it is good that Steph came back and not just rested up for the Olympics?
Yes, I think it's smart to have him come back.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence. It was his wrist, so it wasn't a major leg injury type deal. So, I don't mind him coming back. Like you said, it's not only good for the league, it's good for the Warriors. It helps him build at least chemistry with Andrew Wiggins for these last 20 games of the season. And then, like you said, once they get Clay back, the team I'm looking at is just like what they had with Harrison Barnes. Andrew Wiggins is a very comparable player, and I actually think he's a better scorer than Harrison Barnes was, so that plays better into their favor. They have, Draymond, obviously. And, with Clay and Steph back, those two, those two names speak for themselves. So I kind of they're going to be a, force to reckon with coming next season. The second thing, Corey, here I wanted to get your opinion on was the Wilder Fury fight. How did you, because that happened a couple weeks ago. I know we missed last week here, guys, but, I just want to get your opinion on that fight real quick.
Yeah, obviously I picked Deontay Wilder to win, and he lost by knockout. Taking away from Tyson Fury, obviously he's a great fighter. I think there's going to be a trilogy. I think there's going to be another fight. Deontay Wilder, I think, had a couple chances. As I was watching, there were a couple chances in the fight where he had a chance to kind of hit Tyson Fury, and he just was not himself, obviously, after taking the punch, and obviously was bleeding from his ear. That obviously threw off your metabolism. I think the short skate is what they're calling it, obviously with the shorts being heavier than it threw off his balance is what he's saying. I don't believe that. I think there's going to be a third fight. I think that's pretty much all there is. I think there's going to be a third fight, and it's going to be settled once and for all.
Yeah. Now, did you like the fact that Wilder's camp threw in the towel?
I think it was a smart move. I think obviously with you bleeding from the ear, it throws off your metabolism, your whole body,
Your balance.
your balance, everything. It throws off everything, and I think it was a smart move. Obviously, he may not like it, but he'll have a chance to redeem himself, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, he does have a rematch built into his clause or into it. He has a rematch clause built in when he became champ. So he definitely said he's gonna go for the rematch. That the trilogy, the rubber match, that's gonna be a great fight. And I can't wait to watch that. So with all that being said, Core, who's your shout out going out to this week?
So my shout out's gonna go kind of local to the Cincinnati area. Obviously, my shout out's gonna go to Anthony Grant. If you don't know who that is, he is the head coach at the University of Dayton. Obviously, I want to give him the shout out because he is leading Dayton to just an unreal 28-2 record this year. Obviously, on the verge of a number one seed, kind of fighting with San Diego State right now. Obviously, has still have a shot, and I think Dayton will get the number one seed. Obviously, with winning the A10, and then I think they'll win their A10 conference as well. So my shout out is to Anthony Grant.
All right. Well, I actually have to give my shout out this week to Master Teague. He suffered a torn Achilles in practice, most likely out for. I mean, he's definitely out for the foreseeable future, but he's possibly out for the regular season as well. They did say though that they are going to try to get him, get him into surgery as soon as possible, as well as get him rehabilitated as soon as possible. But it's just heartbreaking for a kid that you see put in all the work. Has waited his time. Didn't jump in the transfer portal where he knew he could start somewhere else. Put in work. Did everything right. And he suffers an injury in practice, man. It's just kind of heartbreaking when you think of it in that aspect. If you're a fan of the team or not, here's a kid who put his blood and sweat out there to work to get to where he is, and it could be taken away from him like that, because that injury changes athletes. It's definitely not an injury that you definitely want to have to tear your Achilles. So my shout out has to go to him. Hopefully he gets better and everything. Any final thoughts here, Core?
I think that's it.
Alrighty, guys. Also here, real quick, I do have an announcement here. Just 1 second here. My cousin's husband here, Ricky Glore, came out with his first stand-up special, Dad Bod. You can watch the special for free by downloading the Dry Bar Comedy app and searching Ricky Glore in the library. Or you can also go to www.drybarcomedy.com/comedians and watch it for $1 if you would like to support him. I listened to it today. It's great. Very, very funny stand-up special that he had come out. As always, listen to the OHIO podcast for your Ohio State needs. I do co-host that with Buckeye Boggs over there, so don't forget to check that out.
And also don't forget to check out us, the 513 Sports Attack, on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the major podcast platforms. Also, if you have any questions for Nick or myself, Corey, please don't hesitate to email us with topics, questions, anything. We're happy to bring up on the show for you. Please email us at the 513 Sports Attack at gmail.com. Also, don't forget to check out our Facebook page and Instagram page at the 513 Sports Attack.
Thanks for listening, guys. One love.